The small town of Edwards, Mississippi, was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's name. A quiet, close-knit community where neighbors waved at each other, and nights were usually filled with the sound of crickets instead of sirens. It was the last place anyone expected to witness a nightmare so horrifying it would echo through the town like a never-ending scream. This is the haunting, tragic story of Ebony Shardé Owens, a mother whose life was built on love, service, and sacrifice, and whose death would reveal a betrayal so twisted it seemed ripped from the pages of a crime novel. Ebony wasn't just a name in the headlines, she was the heartbeat of her family and community. Born on October 13, 1986, she grew up surrounded by love. She was known for her quiet strength, a woman who didn't need to shout to be heard. Her actions spoke louder than any words ever could. As a nurse, Ebony cared for her patients with the same tenderness she gave to her children. She was the type of caregiver who would hold a patient's hand long after her shift ended, whispering, "You're not alone." In her neighborhood, she was affectionately known as the Candy Lady, always ready with a bag of sweets for the local kids. To them, she wasn't just an adult. She was magic, like a fairy godmother in Scrubs. But above all else, Ebony was a mother of 4. Her children were her world, the very reason she woke up each morning. She worked tirelessly to give them the kind of childhood she dreamed of, pouring every ounce of energy into creating a safe and loving home. To her family, Ebony was a rare gem, irreplaceable, unshakable, unforgettable. On the morning of March 15, 2023, everything changed. Ebony didn't show up for work. At first, her family thought it was a mix-up. Maybe she overslept, maybe she was sick. But as the hours ticked by, worry began to claw at their hearts like icy fingers. Ebony was the kind of person who always checked in. For her to go silent was like a star suddenly blinking out of the night sky. It just didn't happen. Calls went unanswered, texts remained unread. A deep, gnawing fear set in. Something was terribly wrong. By that afternoon, panic had taken over. Her family contacted the police, begging for help. Edwards was a small town where missing people cases were almost unheard of, but this felt different, like the calm before a storm. The next morning, just as the sun began to rise, a call came in that would change everything. At 6 a.m., firefighters were dispatched to Old Highway 80, where a vehicle was engulfed in flames. The fire roared like a beast, devouring everything in its path. When the smoke finally cleared, the car was unrecognizable, a charred skeleton of metal and ash. Then came the discovery that sent shivers down investigators' spines. A license plate, carelessly tossed into the nearby woods. It belonged to Ebony Owens. The sight was almost too much to bear. It was as if someone had set her car ablaze to erase her from existence, like a cruel magician performing a disappearing act. The air was thick with dread, and in that moment, everyone knew. This wasn't a disappearance. This was a crime. As investigators scrambled for answers, search crews turned to the Big Black River, a dark, swirling current that seemed to hide its secrets well. The river was treacherous, its waters cold and fast-moving, like a serpent guarding its prey. For days, divers battled the elements, refusing to give up. Each hour felt like a lifetime, each passing moment a cruel reminder that time was running out. Finally, on March 25, 2023, the worst possible outcome became reality. Ebony's body was pulled from the depths of the river. The discovery hit her family like a thunderclap. Hope shattered, leaving behind only grief so heavy it felt like the sky itself was falling. The mother, daughter, and friend who had given so much to the world had been tossed away like she meant nothing. As investigators pieced together the puzzle, an unthinkable truth emerged, a truth so twisted it felt like a nightmare. Ebony had allegedly caught her husband, Michael Owens, in bed with her own daughter. That betrayal alone was enough to break a heart into 1,000 pieces. But Michael didn't stop there. Instead of facing the consequences of his actions, he silenced Ebony forever. The man who once vowed to love and protect her became her executioner. Inside their home, authorities discovered horrifying evidence: a bloody blanket, firearms, and clothing, all signs of a violent struggle. Michael had even set fire to Ebony's car, a desperate act to cover his tracks. It was cold, calculated, monstrous. The irony was as bitter as it was tragic. Ebony, a woman who spent her life saving others, couldn't be saved from the person she trusted most. With the evidence mounting, police descended on Michael Owens's home. Neighbors watched in stunned silence as he was led away in handcuffs, his face pale but emotionless. The man they once saw as a devoted husband and father was now accused of one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. The town of Edwards reeled. It was like waking up to find the sun had been replaced by darkness. Nothing would ever feel safe again. In September 2025, the trial began, and the courtroom was charged with tension. Reporters filled every seat, their pens scratching furiously as witnesses took the stand. Michael tried to spin his story like a spider weaving a web, claiming he killed Ebony in self-defense after she allegedly reached for a gun. He cried crocodile tears, telling the jury, "I lost everything, my wife, my kids, my home." But the prosecution wasn't buying it. They painted a different picture, one of premeditation and deceit. They revealed text messages, surveillance footage, and chilling evidence of Michael's plans to destroy every trace of his crime. "You said, 'I've got to get a drill to remove the tag.' True or false?" "True." "You said, 'I've got to get a gas can to burn the car.' True or false?" "True." The exchange sent a ripple of horror through the courtroom. This wasn't a man who acted in the heat of the moment. This was a man who plotted his wife's destruction like a chess player plotting checkmate. After days of gut-wrenching testimony, the jury returned with their verdict on September 8, 2025. Guilty of first-degree murder and third-degree arson. Judge Faye Peterson didn't mince words during sentencing. She called Michael's actions selfish and deeply troubling before sentencing him to life in prison, plus 3 years for arson. It was a bittersweet victory. Justice had been served, but it couldn't bring Ebony back. Her family clung to each other, knowing that while Michael would never walk free again, the hole left by Ebony's absence could never truly be filled. In April 2023, Ebony was laid to rest in a beautiful ceremony at New Horizon Church International. The church overflowed with mourners, their tears glistening like raindrops on stained glass windows. Friends and family shared stories of Ebony's kindness and laughter, painting a vivid portrait of a woman who brought light to everyone around her. She was buried at Garden Memorial Park, a peaceful resting place for a soul who deserved nothing but peace. The tragedy of Ebony Owens left an entire community scarred. Her story serves as a haunting reminder that evil can wear the mask of love, and that sometimes the greatest danger comes from within our own homes. Ebony's name will never be forgotten. Like a candle in the dark, her memory continues to shine, illuminating the lives of those who loved her. Though her voice was silenced, her story speaks louder than ever, a testament to the strength of those who refuse to let her legacy fade. May Ebony Shardé Owens rest in eternal peace.